Hello, everyone. I'm Erin Pickens. We're celebrating a milestone this week. October 3rd marks 50 years since the founding of WAPT, and a lot has happened in Jackson and in Mississippi since 1970 when we came on the air. Here to take a trip down memory lane with us today are Marshall Ramsey, a cartoonist with Mississippi Today, and we also have Pamela Jr., director of the two Mississippi Museums. Thank you both for being here with us today. Okay, we've already been doing a little bit of chit-chatting already, so Marshall, we're going to start with you. We were talking earlier. You said you told some people you're going to be recording today with us, so of course that's changed over the past few years. Technology, we don't really record. We record, but not record, you know, so some things have changed over the past few years. Even the way you do what you do, you know, a lot easier now than it was when you first started.
Yeah, when I first started, I actually started doing my cartoons on cave walls, so I've kind of made a big jump now to technology. But seriously, when I came here in Mississippi in 1996, I was the youngest person in the newsroom, and I used to draw on a piece of paper, and I would take it downstairs, and they'd take a picture of it, and it would go on a dead tree and be delivered in your front yard. And now I draw it on an iPad, and I can upload it, and it's literally on the website within 30 seconds.
And it's so funny, the more things change, the more things stay the same. You've drawn so many characters of people over these past few years. So, you know, the characters may change as far as people are concerned, but, you know, the politics, you know, that changes as well. But so many interesting things over these past few years for you.
I've drawn over 7,000 cartoons since I've been here in Mississippi. And I was, like I said, I was the young guy when I began. I moved here from California. I'm from Georgia originally, but Mississippi is probably the world's best place to be an editorial cartoonist. And I got here right about the time Governor Fordyce had his wreck. He was in his second term, and he was fantastic. You're only as good as your governor. And I've had really good politicians and issues to work with. Everything from, you know, the tobacco settlement to Katrina to the flag vote to all the different politicians we've had. It's been a really good run.
And then 2020 in and of itself, these 9, now 10 months, could probably just, oh my word, just a lot going on.
Now that's 50 years. 2020 has been 50.
Just by itself, just in and of itself right there. All right, we want to move over to Pamela Jr. Okay, so when I first met you, Pamela, you were with Smith Robertson Museum, a wonderful little gem that it is, and now you're with two Mississippi Museums, a wonderful asset that it is, because we're going to talk about that here in just a few minutes, but talking about 50 years here, that Gibbs Green with Jackson State University, so let's talk about that. That's also something, again that happened 50 years ago. That was also a momentous occasion here in Jackson, Mississippi, a turning point in the civil rights movement.
It was May 1970. I was 12 years old. I'm telling my age, but it was something. I think as a little girl being afraid, and I was at Blackburn Junior High School at that time, and how walking through the campus afterwards and how it felt, and meeting up with Black Panthers who gave me my feel of being conscious, because they said, little sister, we have a black band for you to put on your arm in memory of what happened last night. But to think that we have people that are still alive that can talk about that night, and how the Mississippi Highway Patrol, how they shot into Alexander Hall. It still gives me chills to think about if I was in that age range as a young adult and on campus and hearing gunshots and knowing that you have two people that were killed. And I knew the Green family because his brother went to school. They went to Blackburn with me. So to see them and watching them and being so sad behind the death of their brother was something that I'll never forget. And
I know Galia Porter, and she was at Jackson State at the time, so she's been a part of the commemoration that they've had over this past year, making sure that again was commemorated and people don't forget what happened, and they mark it in the history books. But again, so many things that have happened, again, when you were at Smith Robertson, making sure that things were commemorated there, and now the historic opening of the two Mississippi Museums. You've been there since the beginning, been there with the opening of that. Tell us more about getting that up and running and some of the things that have gone into making sure that museum is open and it stands, and getting some of the historical monuments into the museum.
You know, I'm a Jacksonian, so for them to bring and have a museum of this magnitude, 2 museums, just kudos for the state of Mississippi. And, you know, at first, of course, I was at Smith Robertson Museum and Cultural Center when the whole thought of rebuilding the 2 Mississippi museums. And when they came about, and me being a part of it, Aaron, is just something within itself. Watching people going out to the communities and getting artifacts, and understanding that with the Civil Rights Museum, there were a lot of people that felt that these museums weren't going to tell the truth, that they weren't going to be authentic. But for people to walk in and seeing people crying and understanding that Mississippi did it right, and they did. And even today, even though the pandemic is around and the numbers have gone down, just think that over 450,000 people, 450,000 people have gone through the museum, and people from 50 states and 40 different countries. And I just did an interview with people from France. And so you just think about the magnitude that these museums have brought to the world.
And you all were record-breaking from the beginning. You had record-breaking numbers in the opening days and weeks of the museum.
Exactly. You know, what I think about, Aaron, is that this was something that was needed for Mississippi. And when people would go into the Civil Rights Museum and they get to the second gallery and they see the lynching monoliths, and how that affected them, and how just recently a young lady walked in and she cried so hard that she had to go into the restroom. So these are chilling moments that people get when they come into the museum. But the thing about those chilling moments that I tell people is that the work continues. And I hope that through going through both of the museums that you go out and continue the work.
And we're going to come back and talk about some more of those historical moments in just a second. But Marshall, I want to come back to you and talking about history. Of course, you know, we know that you are an award-winning artist, an award-winning cartoonist, and some of the things that you have done have gotten national recognition. We know that you have drawn and gotten presidents to take notice of some of your work. Tell us about that. You got to put Mississippi on the map, getting us some attention nationally.
You know, when Barbara Bush passed away, for example, I did a cartoon of her being greeted by her young daughter, Robin, who passed away from leukemia in the 50s. And I didn't really know at the time, but that's what George W. Bush was talking with his mother as she was passing away. And it was something that meant a lot to that family. And of course, I posted it in the morning, and next thing I know, that Jenna, who's the granddaughter, of course, it's on the Today Show, she had posted it. It was on the Today Show, and it just went super viral. And I think what was really special about that, it was really neat because I got to do a lot of TV stuff. I got to go speak at the Bush Library. The Bush family wrote me handwritten thank you notes, which was really classy on their part. But what was really wonderful and special about that cartoon was that I got to hear from so many parents who had lost children and how much hope it had brought them. And so, you know, it's amazing. Sometimes my cartoons might make people mad. Sometimes I might get, nasty letters or emails or whatever. But when you know that you can make a difference in somebody's life just on a simple drawing that you've done, it's a very rewarding moment.
And that's one thing, too, that's, in the past 50 years with technology. Back in the 70s, we didn't have the art of social media. And now something like social media, the technology of that, something that you did was able to touch someone, and so many people were able to see it because, they have that outlet, and it's able to touch so many people because so many people are able to see it.
Yeah, social media is such a blessing and it's such a curse. It's amazing how it has changed things. Like, for instance, in the 2001 flag vote, when somebody was mad about it, they would either pick up the phone call or write me a letter. Now, they can get to you 24/7 through your Twitter feed. So, like I said, it can be a blessing because I've met people from all around the world. I actually went to London, England, and met people who follow my dog on Twitter.
Yes.
That's just how amazing how it shrunk the world. But it's really made a big effect here in Mississippi, too, because I feel like that you can really get to all different parts of Mississippi with your work, and you can do it very quickly. So it's been fascinating to see how the world's changed since 2008 even.
Yeah. Exactly. All right. And you talked about the flag. That's something we're going to talk about here in our next segment. So everyone keep it right here. More Mississippi Matters coming up in just a moment. Welcome back, everyone, to Mississippi Matters. As we ended our last segment, Marshall was talking about the state flag of Mississippi, and we know that one of the biggest things that's happened here in the past 50 years has been the changing of the state flag, something that's been talked about for many, many years, and it finally happened this year. Our guests today, Marshall Ramsey and Pamela Jr. So, Pam, we know that here just a few weeks ago, we saw you on the national stage. You made national news as you were accepting the now retired flag of Mississippi, making way for what will be eventually a new flag. Talk about that moment. You know, the first flag vote happened in 2001. Voters chose to keep the flag with the stars and bars. Here now, the state legislature got involved, retired the old flag with the stars and bars. Now we're making way for a vote here in a few weeks for a new flag. Accepting that old flag and putting it into the museum. Talk about that moment.
You know, that moment was something for me, being a historian and knowing the history behind the Mississippi state flag. It was, I don't know, you know, everything went so fast for me that day, but I just remember that I was standing there and the Speaker of the House and the Lieutenant Governor and Executive Director of the Mississippi Department of Archives and History was coming down the sidewalk with three flags. And at that moment, I started to crumble a little bit, especially when the flag was put in my hand. But what I thought about and what I was hearing in my head was stand up straight. This is a moment that you need to stand up straight and accept this flag and the history that's behind it, and that today is going to be a new Mississippi where we're going to collectively come back together and we're going to start anew. So that day was pivotal for me, and it'll be something that I always remember, that I received the flag from the state of Mississippi for the state of Mississippi.
And in those days leading up to that moment, we know that state lawmakers were working on this at the Capitol. And even before that, we know that it moved pretty quickly. The death of George Floyd is what kind of made it move a little bit faster. People were talking about social justice and making change, and it kind of put it back on the forefront, because we know every year the state flag issue came up, and every year it either never made it out of committee or something would happen. But this year, something was a little bit different. Do you remember the moment when you thought, okay, this may be the year that something actually happens?
I was sitting at home on a Sunday afternoon and watching the news. Saturday, of course, it was on, and I thought it was going to happen Saturday. But that Sunday, when I really felt that this is really going to happen, what part will we be playing in it at the museum? Those were my thoughts, and gathering staff members and having conversations about ancillary activities and programs that we can have where we can really talk about how people are feeling. And that's important for me. So I don't even know if I slept that night, because I was so anticipating meeting up with staff members and just having the conversation, because we have round table, because that's what we're supposed to do in order to figure out what type of programming that we were going to have just around the whole issue of the flag.
And I know that you received the flag. It will be put on display. Has it already been put up, or are you all preparing a place for it right now?
It's already up. It is already up. I want people to come and see how it has been displayed. It has been displayed very well, and kudos to the department, our collections and exhibition department, who has done an amazing job.
All right, thank you so much, Pam. And Marshall, again, you mentioned it earlier. We've gone through so much over the past few years in talking about the flag. In 2001, when this vote first came up about changing the flag, and voters, of course, chose to keep it, you were a part of the artistry of commemorating that moment. Tell us a little bit about you capturing the moment then about the flag.
I know, it's so funny. I was putting together my 20th anniversary book, and it was, you know, it's just little chunks of history. And I was looking at those cartoons, and it brought back some really strong memories. That was a really emotional time. Of course, it was before social media, but people were still, you know, viewing their views on television and on on phone calls and on, on radio. You'd hear it everywhere. Well, the day of the flag vote, it was April 17, 2001, I had been getting phone calls all day long with people who were mad about my cartoons. And so they were saying some very unnice things to me. And at 5:30 that afternoon, my doctor called and he said, I don't know how to tell you this, but you have cancer. And I just started laughing. And he's like, why are you laughing? I said, this is the nicest phone call I've had all day. I appreciate it. But when I was named a Pulitzer finalist for that work, the judges said they were going to give it to me, but they thought they were going to have to give it to me posthumously. And I was like, no, it wasn't that bad. But it was one of those things that I never thought that I would see it changed. And so flash forward to today, and of course this year, our team up at Mississippi Today had done some reporting saying that there was some movement afoot to change it after George Floyd's, death. And so I did a cartoon. I remember I had somebody driving down Highway 49 through Richland through the construction saying, I don't know what's going to happen first. This will get finished or the flag will come down, because I just didn't believe it was going to happen. But then suddenly it started happening very quickly, and I was able to get some pretty good cartoons out of that too.
The momentum, definitely. And I remember the day it happened, and I think that the movement on the flag, you had like a vapor, and then it just kind of disappeared. One of the last ones that you had. So, and then, like you said, between 2001 and then 2020, feedback, even in 2001, you were able to get the feedback from people, and of course, but of course now 2020, you get it even faster because, again, of social media, the blessing and the curse of social media. People will let you know very quickly their thoughts on things like this.
Yeah, I tell you honestly, a lot of times I'll see somebody will write something nasty, and I think, I just hope your children don't marry my children, or something like that. Yeah. But you can mute them or block them if they get too bad. But like I said, I think social media for the most part has been very positive for what I do. And of course, it's really nice because you can carry on discussions with people all around the state about different issues that you draw about, and so it's generally a positive thing.
All right. And as we're wrapping up this segment, anything else that you can think of here from the past few years that you've been working here in the Jackson area and here in Mississippi? Anything else that comes to mind that has been extremely popular amongst your viewers?
The Katrina cartoons are probably some of the ones I'm most proud of. But it's not because of the work that I did. It was the work that we as Mississippians did. Yes. I remember, literally hearing at 10 o'clock in the morning the day that Katrina hit, there's water on the second floor of the Beau Rivage, and you're thinking, oh my gosh, the coast will never be the same again. But before the wind stopped blowing, there were people in Mississippi loading up their trucks full of stuff and chainsaws and working their way down the coast to help people. And, here we are in this time of a pandemic, and I don't know if we're doing a great job of this, because I think sometimes you think people may be a wee bit selfish. But the thing that I remembered about Katrina and that work from that time was how we pulled together as a state. And, I have a lot of jobs and a lot of roles, and I'm really proud of the things I do here in Mississippi. But the thing that I'm probably most proud of is the fact that when things get bad, we get good. And we saw that after Katrina. And, I'm in the business of raising boys, and I'm so proud that they're Mississippians and that they got to see that, because that's what gives me hope, even when things are seem crazy, that I know that at the end of the day, we're probably going to do the right thing.
Very true, because you're right. After Katrina, it was all hands on deck, all boots on the ground, and so many people, as people on the coast were coming away and coming up here for shelter, people in this area in North were going that way to help them rebuild. And like you said, looking at that, it's like, oh my, how is the coast ever going to rebuild? And to look at it now, it is flourishing, it is thriving. There's still some, we can remember what happened, but it is growing and it looks great. All right, thank you, Marshall. Keep it right here, everyone. Our final thoughts are coming up next. And as we wrap up our milestone show today, we go back to Pam to talk about some of the other things that have happened here in the past 50 years, some of the big events that we just can't forget in Jackson and in Mississippi.
You know, one of the biggest soirees that we had was the celebration of Medgar Evers, his birthday, that was at the convention center here in Jackson. And then I can still, you know, see all the amazing people that were a part of that and how wonderful Mrs. Evers looked when she got on the stage. And of course, people like B.B. King was there and Jesse Jackson, and it was just an amazing time. And the other thing that event that I remember is when the Freedom Riders and all those buses that came in and how they went to Medgar Evers' house and they were so proud to be able to tell their stories and going to Parchman. So it's been a lot of things that have happened in the state of Mississippi, and of course all the wonderful places that we have to go, and just the history. We have a history, 15,000 years of Mississippi history. We have the Civil Rights Museum, where we were ground zero for civil rights in the state of Mississippi. So much has happened, and there's going to be so much more that's going to happen. And as a historian, wow, I'm just in wow right now with the pandemic. You think about the Spanish flu back in the day and what's going on now. It's going to be a time that we just sit back. We have no idea, but it's going to be grand, I tell you. A lot to talk about with our great-grandchildren.
And we do appreciate you for being able to capture this history and have it in a place like the Two Mississippi Museum so people can be able to go and see it and read about it and watch it over these next few years to come. So we do thank you for preserving Mississippi's history. Thank you, Pam Jr. All right, and Marshall Ramsey, you also are preserving our history with your cartoons. We love it. Tell us, what are some other things that come to your mind about Jackson and Mississippi over these past few years?
Well, there's been a lot of change, and but a lot of things have stayed the same too. But I mean, you think about it, we've had everything from WorldCom, we've had the power change in the state government from Democrat to Republican. You've had Haley Barbour come in as governor and take us on a national stage. I mean, it's been fascinating. Just all these news events. I get other cartoonists call me and say, "You are so lucky that you live there because you're never short of material." And for me to be able to write kind of a first draft of history, or at least do first doodles of history, I guess might be a better way of putting it. But I've been so blessed to be here. I moved here, like I said, in 1996. I'm from Atlanta originally. I lived in California. And when I got that phone call to move to Mississippi, it didn't make a lot of sense on paper to move from San Diego to Mississippi, but it's truly been a God thing. And it's so neat to hear Pam talk about Medgar Evers. I've gotten to meet the family, and the first book I checked out from the San Diego Library when I got this job was a biography of Medgar Evers. And when I read about his courage, I thought, you know what, this is a place I need to go. And it's amazing to me that I never, ever, ever suffer from lack of things to draw here. It's usually every day I just kind of turn on the TV or open up the paper or check the internet, and there's my idea.
And just like with Pam, we thank you for what you do in commemorating what's happening here in Mississippi and preserving it and having a historical view of it and keeping it there for all of us to see. Thank you, Marshall. And thank you all for watching, and happy birthday, WAPT.